6. Unlucky goal. In 1994, Colombia entered the World Cup with high hopes and a promising track record. They topped their qualifying group, even securing a remarkable 5-0 victory over Argentina, and were regarded as favorites by none other than Brazilian legend Pelé. However, that year, Colombia's World Cup journey turned into a tragic tale. The turning point came in the form of an early goal that was scored by defender André Escobar. This unfortunate event led to Colombia's exit from the tournament at the group stage. And what followed was a harrowing tragedy that shook the nation and left a lasting scar. Escobar's own goal occurred during a 2-1 loss to the United States, and it's believed that members of a powerful drug cartel had substantial bets riding on the outcome of the game. The team's underwhelming performance then resulted in a backlash in Colombia. But despite advice from friends to keep a low profile until the situation calmed down, Escobar boldly declared, "I must show my face to my people." Tragically, though, just 5 days after Colombia's early exit from the World Cup, Escobar was gunned down while sitting in his car outside a nightclub in Medellin. He was shot 6 times, and it was reported that his assailant shouted "goal" with each shot, echoing the commentators' calls during the ill-fated match. Humberto Castro Muñoz, a bodyguard believed to be associated with the drug barons who lost money due to the match, was arrested the following day and confessed to the murder. The funeral of André Escobar drew an estimated 120,000 mourners, highlighting the profound impact his death had on the country. Even today, the anniversary of Escobar's death is commemorated at soccer matches in Colombia. The tragic incident continues to cast a shadow over the sport, as evidenced by death threats directed at players like Carlos Sanchez during the 2018 World Cup. These threats, often made on social media, illustrate the persisting issues in Colombian society, including violence, crime, and the influence of drug cartels. Santiago Escobar, André's brother and a former soccer player himself, spoke out against these threats, empathizing with the fear and anguish that the targeted players and their families must endure. He also highlighted the need to address such threats, condemning those responsible as not true Colombian soccer fans, but rather lowlifes who should face legal consequences. André Escobar's tragic story serves as a haunting reminder of the complex and deeply rooted issues that have plagued Colombia for decades, from drug-related crime to the enduring influence of powerful criminal organizations. It also underscores the need for a more inclusive, peaceful, and supportive soccer culture in the country. 5. Diane Downs. In 1983, Diane Downs made headlines across the United States with a shocking claim. She and her 3 children had been attacked by an unknown assailant. The incident unfolded on May 19th when Diane, a 27-year-old mother, reported that a stranger had shot at her and her kids on a desolate road in Springfield, Oregon. The aftermath of the attack was devastating. Her 7-year-old daughter Cheryl lost her life. Her 3-year-old Danny was left permanently paralyzed from the waist down, and her 8-year-old Christy fought for her life after suffering a stroke due to critically low blood pressure. Diane herself had been hit in the forearm during what she described as a struggle with the mysterious assailant. However, as it would later be revealed, the shocking truth behind the incident appeared to be far different from what Diane Downs had initially claimed. Diane, who was born in Phoenix, Arizona in 1955, had a tumultuous life leading up to the incident. She married her high school sweetheart Steve at the age of 18, and their marriage was fraught with instability. Diane had multiple affairs, leading to the birth of a son Danny who wasn't Steve's biological child. The couple then divorced in 1980, and Diane moved to Oregon, where she took a job with the US Postal Service to be closer to her parents. In Oregon, she became involved with a married co-worker named Robert Knickerbocker, who continuously promised to be with her but repeatedly failed to follow through with his commitments. This heartbreak, along with a series of disappointments, pushed Diane to the brink. Then, on the night of May 19, 1983, while driving with her children, Diane claimed to have encountered a bushy-haired man who, she said, waved down her car on a lonely stretch of highway. According to her account, she stopped to help, but the man demanded her vehicle, and when she resisted, she claimed he started shooting at her children. Diane stated that she faked throwing her car keys into the bushes, pushed the gunman away, and then rushed her gravely injured children to the hospital, even though she'd been shot in the left forearm herself. However, suspicions arose almost immediately. Police were puzzled by Diane's calm demeanor despite the tragedy, and her story changed during interrogations. Investigators began to suspect that Diane Downs had actually attacked her own children and shot herself to make her story more believable. Evidence mounted against her, including the discovery of unfired bullets with the same extractor marks as those found at the crime scene. And furthermore, Diane's ex-husband Steve Downs revealed that she owned a .22 caliber gun, which matched the weapon used in the shootings. Knickerbocker, Diane's former lover, also confirmed their affair and disclosed her violent reaction to their breakup. During her trial, 9-year-old Christy Downs, who had since recovered her ability to speak, testified that her mother had shot them. And so, the jury found Diane Downs guilty of murder and attempted murder on June 17, 1984. She then received a life sentence plus 50 years in prison. In an unusual turn of events, in 1986, Christy and Danny Downs were adopted by Fred Hughey, the prosecutor who'd successfully put their mother behind bars. Despite her conviction, Diane Downs continues to maintain her innocence. She escaped from prison in 1987, but was recaptured after 10 days. She is currently serving her sentence in a California prison and was denied parole in 2008 and 2010. 4. Katherine Knight. February 2000, Katherine Knight became Australia's most notorious female murderer, earning a life sentence without parole for the gruesome murder of her partner, John Charles Thomas Price. Knight's horrific crime involved stabbing Price to death, skinning his corpse, and cooking his head with vegetables. Dr. William J. Allender, a forensic medical scientist, revealed this shocking case in his book, The Expert Witness: A Second Dose, which explores 30 cases related to drugs and poisons. Knight's murderous spree occurred in Aberdeen, a small Australian town. She had a history of violent relationships, including a marriage to David Kellett, whom she tried to strangle on their wedding night. Later, Knight left her infant daughter on a railway track, but she was rescued by a passerby. Knight was then diagnosed with postnatal depression and was discharged from the hospital. But she continued her violent streak by slashing a woman's face and threatening a boy with a knife. After a stint in a psychiatric hospital, Knight reunited with Kellett, but their relationship ultimately ended. She later had another daughter and moved on to a relationship with a man named David Saunders. However, her jealousy led to violent outbursts, such as slitting the throat of Saunders' dingo puppy. Knight's violent tendencies persisted with her subsequent partners. She decorated her house with the skins and skulls of animals, and her relationships were marked by brutal fights. Her final partner, John Price, was a beloved figure in the town. However, their relationship soured, leading to a restraining order against Knight. On February 29, 2000, Knight attacked Price, stabbing him multiple times in a vicious assault. He managed to escape, but succumbed to his wounds. Knight then engaged in unspeakable acts, including skinning Price, hanging his skin on a meat hook, and decapitating him. She even prepared a macabre meal, serving parts of his body with vegetables at the dinner table, with each plate labeled with the names of Price's children. Price's co-workers grew concerned when he didn't show up for work and alerted the police. And when officers arrived at Price's home, they discovered the horrific crime scene. The police found Price's skinned body, his head cooking in a pot on the stove, and notes for each of his children at the dinner table. Katherine Knight was arrested, and forensic testing revealed that she'd taken antidepressants and antihistamines before the murder. Despite her claims of memory loss, though, Knight was found guilty and was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Justice Barry O'Keefe, who presided over the case, emphasized Knight's cruelty and lack of remorse, deeming her unfit for mercy or release. The crime remains one of Australia's most gruesome and shocking cases, a horrifying testament to the depths of human brutality. 3. John George Hay. In February 1949, a gruesome discovery unfolded in West Sussex when police raided a warehouse on Leopold Road that was owned by John George Hay. Inside the warehouse, they found numerous 40-gallon drums and containers filled with concentrated sulfuric acid. And in the vicinity, they discovered disturbing evidence, including 28 pounds of melted human body fat, a part of a human foot, human gallstones, and a fragment of a denture. It then became clear to investigators that Hay had committed a gruesome murder and used acid to dissolve the victim's body, a method reminiscent of the TV series Breaking Bad. And as the investigation unfolded, it became even more shocking. Hay had a history of such murders and sinister plans for future victims. He would have acted on these plans too if it wasn't for a small misstep. Born into an affluent and conservative Yorkshire family, Hay enjoyed a privileged upbringing, marked by classical music concerts and academic scholarships. However, his life took a dark turn when at the age of 25, he was arrested and imprisoned for fraud shortly after getting married. His wife left him during his imprisonment, and his conservative family disowned him. Then, after serving a 2-year sentence, Hay moved to London where he worked as a chauffeur. Despite his previous fraud convictions, he continued swindling unsuspecting individuals, often posing as a solicitor named William Adamson and selling fraudulent stock shares. He was eventually caught though when he misspelled his false name on a legal document. In 1939, Hay was arrested again, and this time he was sentenced to 4 years for fraud. And while in prison, he realized that leaving his fraud victims alive was his downfall. Determined to eliminate witnesses, Hay began researching the methods of French murderer Georges-Alexandre Sarret, who dissolved victims in sulfuric acid. He first experimented on mice, discovering the time it took to dissolve a small mouse. Then, armed with this knowledge, he calculated the quantities of acid and time needed to dissolve a human body. Upon his release from prison, Hay took a job at an engineering firm's accounting department. He reconnected with an old friend, William McSwan, and became jealous of McSwan's apparent wealth from his property rentals. Hay lured McSwan into an abandoned basement, murdered him, and dissolved his body in acid. Hay subsequently took over McSwan's landlord duties, pretending that McSwan had run away. And when McSwan's family grew suspicious, Hay murdered them as well. He amassed wealth and properties through these killings, and moved to the Onslow Court Hotel in Kensington. However, Hay's gambling addiction depleted his funds, leading him to seek another wealthy couple to kill and rob. He murdered Dr. Archibald Henderson and his wife Rose and disposed of their bodies at a warehouse in Gloucester. Hay then rented a larger warehouse on Leopold Road, where he killed and dissolved his final victim, Olive Durand Deacon. Unlike his previous disposal sites, this warehouse lacked a floor drain and manhole access, forcing Hay to dump the sludge outside the premises. Investigators then discovered Durand Deacon's body, leading to Hay's arrest and subsequent murder trial. During his trial, Hay pleaded insanity, claiming that drinking his victim's blood had driven him mad, though there was no evidence to support this claim. But one arresting officer informed prosecutors that Hay had asked them about the chances of being released from a psychiatric hospital versus prison. The jury swiftly returned a guilty verdict and Hay was sentenced to death. And on August 10, 1949, John George Hay was executed for his gruesome crimes. 2. Jerry Brudos. Jerry Brudos, known as the Lust Killer or the Shoe Fetish Killer, confessed to a series of gruesome crimes that occurred between 1968 and 1969. While not known for the quantity of victims, Brudos gained notoriety for his disturbing treatment of the victims' corpses. Brudos, originally from Webster, South Dakota, developed an unusual fascination with women's shoes at a young age. At just 5 years old, he stumbled upon a pair of women's stiletto-heeled shoes in a local junkyard, which he took home to try on. but his mother discovered him wearing the shoes, leading to a heated confrontation where she confiscated and destroyed the stilettos. And this incident deeply affected Brudos. His obsession with women's shoes intensified over the years, and he began stealing shoes and panties from neighbors. By the age of 17, Brudos was committed to the psychiatric ward of the Oregon State Hospital for abducting a teenage girl at knife point and taking inappropriate photos of her. As he reached his 30s, Brudos escalated to murder, killing 4 women and attempting to abduct 2 others. Authorities, during their investigation, interviewed female students at Oregon State University who reported encounters with an older man posing as a Vietnam vet seeking dates. This man was then identified as Jerry Brudos. In a sting operation, officers used one of the students to arrange a date with Brudos, leading to his apprehension and subsequent confession. A search of Brudos' home revealed incriminating evidence, supporting the suspicion that he was the serial killer they'd been searching for. Brudos admitted to the murders of Linda Sarli, Karen Sprinker, and Jan Susan Whitney. He also confessed to the killing of Linda Slauson, but wasn't charged due to insufficient evidence. In addition to these horrific crimes, Brudos admitted to mutilating and preserving his victims' corpses for his own sick and twisted fantasies. During legal proceedings, Brudos claimed he was mentally ill at the time of the crimes. But he was ultimately sentenced to life in prison at the Oregon State Penitentiary. He spent his final years behind bars and passed away at the age of 67, succumbing to liver cancer. 1. David Robinson. In July 2021, 53-year-old David Robinson was charged with manslaughter and was held on $100,000 bail for the death of the 58-year-old Than Thuy in Manhattan. According to prosecutors, the incident began with a perceived slight in the subway when Robinson believed that Than's 22-year-old son had thrown trash at him. Robinson allegedly tried to grab the younger man as they were leaving the Canal Street subway station, causing the man to lose balance and cling to his mother. This resulted in both mother and son falling backward down the stairs, leading to Than hitting her head. And despite hearing a loud noise upon Than's head hitting the ground, Robinson left the scene and took the next train to Midtown. However, investigators were able to trace him through fingerprints he left in a Manhattan DVD store where he picked up items off the shelves. Robinson initially evaded authorities for months and fled to Newark, New Jersey after Than's death. He then provided a fake name when he was eventually arrested in Central Park following a Crime Stoppers tip. During the court proceedings, Robinson remained silent, and his defense attorney argued for supervised release, claiming he couldn't afford bail. But the judge set bail at $100,000, emphasizing the significant jail time the defendant could face if convicted. The Metropolitan Transportation Authority called Than's death a terrible crime and expressed condolences to the victim's family. They also highlighted that the presence of cameras in subway stations helps identify those who target transit riders and ensures that they face justice. In this case, though, justice definitely wasn't served. In November of 2022, David Robinson was sentenced to just 1 to 3 years for killing Than Thuy. If you went on a first date with someone who was extremely attractive but gave you a weird vibe, would you go out with them again? Or would you listen to your intuition and stay away from them? Let us know what you think in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.